Bombshell royal expose. Tom Bower has just dropped what many are calling the biggest revelation of the decade about Meghan Markle and little Lilibet. Proof, witnesses, and details so disturbing they force us to question everything. This changes it all. Stay with us. Good evening and welcome to Royal Daily Report, where we bring you the unfiltered truth behind the headlines. Tonight, we dive into Tom Bower's explosive new investigation that has Montecito reeling and the world asking hard questions about Meghan and Lilibet. If you're new here, hit subscribe now to Royal Daily Report. Turn on notifications and join us for exclusive royal investigations. Channel name on screen, Royal Daily Report. Let's get straight into it. This is brutal. The story you're about to hear was never meant to be heard this way. It isn't gentle. It isn't neat. And it certainly isn't comfortable. This is the kind of truth that shakes the walls of the Sussex narrative and challenges us to follow the trail all the way into the dark. So take a breath, because once you hear what Tom Bower has uncovered and what this witness has revealed, you will understand why people are saying this expose does not just raise questions, it changes everything. The first crack in this story begins with an image so dramatic it feels like it came from a movie script. Harry and Meghan leaving a hospital during a global lockdown. The streets empty, the world silent, and in their hands they say a tiny package, the remains of an unborn child. According to their own account, they carried this small soul to a secret place under a wide banyan tree, a sacred, hidden spot known only to them. A place where Harry says he dug into the ground with his bare hands and gently placed the package into the earth. It is a heartbreaking image, and yet something about it shakes when examined closely. Sources familiar with the area quietly point out that banyan trees do not grow where the couple lived at the time. Medical professionals also insist that no hospital, especially during strict COVID rules, would release fetal remains for a backyard burial. Nor would a husband be allowed inside the emergency wing during a miscarriage. Nor would any burial, even of early pregnancy tissue, be legal on private land without official permission. But the story was told with such emotion and such dramatic detail that many people did not question the gaps at first, not until the second crack appeared. The math begins quietly, softly, almost innocently. Harry and Meghan say the miscarriage happened in July 2020, and then less than a year later, they welcomed a full-term daughter. But when you subtract healing time, recovery, and the actual months needed for a full pregnancy, the timeline starts to collapse. Not by a little, but by entire months. Women around the world began doing the math themselves, and the numbers did not work. Even more strangely, their son Archie was still a toddler at the time. And sources say Meghan was lifting him daily, something that becomes difficult during late pregnancy or early recovery. And yet, instead of explaining the timeline, the couple simply moved forward. A new baby, a new announcement, a new chapter written over the remains of the old one. But the numbers stayed the same. Cold, sharp, and unchanged. And those numbers pointed to the next question. Did this story ever rest on medical reality at all? To understand the pressure behind this story, we turn not to gossip or theories, but to fertility specialists, voices with nothing to gain and no reason to exaggerate. According to medical experts quoted in the transcript, at age a woman faces a 30 to 40% chance of miscarriage, a 50 to 60% chance of chromosomal abnormalities, and a miscarriage that almost always happens early, quietly, and is handled medically without ceremony. Not a dramatic emergency, not a same-day release with a tiny package, not a secret burial under a tree that does not exist. Even more importantly, experts say stress does not cause miscarriage in the way Harry described. It does not come from moving homes. It does not erupt from a newspaper lawsuit. It does not appear because a woman did not sleep enough. Miscarriage is deeply emotional. Yes, but medically it is usually caused by natural biological factors beyond anyone's control. So when Harry publicly blamed the media and said, "I believe my wife suffered a miscarriage because of what the media did," experts were concerned because the message inside that claim is dangerous. It suggests miscarriage is someone's fault. It suggests someone can be blamed. And those who work with grieving women every day know this is not how miscarriage works. This is not how the human body works. And this is not how truth works. But while the world was still trying to process these contradictions, the story shifted again, changing shape, tone, and purpose. When Meghan published her miscarriage story, thousands of women felt not comfort, but something colder, something closer to disbelief, because these women had lived the real experience. They knew the silence, the shock, the heavy truth that stays long after the moment ends. And in their reflections, quoted directly in the transcript, they spoke plainly. Early miscarriages do not create dramatic hospital scenes. Remains are not handed to families for burial. During strict COVID rules, partners were often not allowed into exam rooms at all. And the emotional response Meghan described, singing lullabies through pain, felt unfamiliar to many who had lived through it. One woman who had suffered multiple miscarriages said, reading Meghan's account felt disturbing, as if something sacred had been turned into a performance. Another said she feared Meghan had added shame to miscarriage by blaming stress and outside forces, a message that goes against everything doctors tell grieving mothers who already carry guilt they do not deserve. And through all these stories ran one quiet but powerful theme. The story Meghan told did not match the reality these women knew. It was not the grief they questioned. Grief is personal. It was the framing, the details, the timing, and the way the loss seemed to be released with careful polish. This was no longer just a story. It was becoming a pattern, and that pattern pointed to the next source of doubt. To understand the questions around Meghan's pregnancies, we looked to people who knew her before palaces, cameras, and global attention. Her childhood friend, Naki Pretty, stepped forward years ago with claims that opened a new layer of this story. According to her, Meghan had serious fertility concerns long before royal life. She talked about freezing her eggs. She spoke about endometriosis, a condition that can make pregnancy very difficult. And most shocking of all, Pretty claimed Meghan had a hysterectomy at age. Another friend, unnamed but willing to speak, supported similar claims, saying Meghan had talked about severe pain and medical decisions that may have changed her ability to conceive naturally. None of these claims have been officially confirmed, but what makes them hard to ignore is simple. They came from people who were once very close to her, people who put their names and reputations at risk. When combined with the bending baby bump, shifting timelines, medical contradictions, dramatic retellings, and lack of public medical proof, these statements create a puzzle that does not fit the story shown to the world. And this is where the narrative turns sharply, because while friends described medical limits, Meghan's public story showed multiple pregnancies with no struggle, no symptoms, and physical details that raised even more questions. The next chapter is even more unsettling. A moment when doubt allegedly came not from outsiders, but from Harry himself. Every story has a moment when the mask slips and the truth leaks through. For Meghan and Harry, Tom Bower believes that moment came during the 2018 royal tour of Australia. Sources close to the tours described tensions so thick it filled every room. Staff whispered about last-minute changes, sudden demands, and a tour meant to focus on Harry becoming something else entirely. But the most shocking moment, according to witnesses, happened behind closed doors during an argument overheard by several people. Harry, tense and confused, allegedly asked Meghan a question no husband should ever have to ask. "Are you really pregnant?" A sentence heavy enough to freeze the air. A sentence that reveals doubt, fear, and something deeper under the surface. Sources say the argument started because Meghan announced her pregnancy during the tour without approval, without planning, turning a royal event into her own spotlight. The result was a husband who appeared strained, distracted, and as many noticed, unhappy for much of the trip. This brief moment matters greatly because if Harry himself questioned the pregnancy, what did he see? What did he sense? And why did that question come out at all? The cracks were spreading. This is where the story stops being confusing and becomes frightening. According to a public accusation by a mother in Costa Rica, Meghan allegedly hired her young daughter to pose as Lilibet during a trip. This claim did not come from an anonymous rumor. It came from a woman who used her name, saying Meghan did not pay her and that no children were traveling with the couple. Sources say Meghan and Harry left early and left their hotel bill unpaid. Sources also say the child photographed looked very different from Lilibet in official photos. And this is not the only strange detail. Another unexplained issue appeared, a screenshot of a palace announcement saying Archie was born by surrogate. Many people say they saw it live. But later, another version appeared with one difference. Instead of Kensington Palace, it said Frogmore Cottage. Two versions of the same announcement. no explanation, no source, and neither ever acknowledged by the palace. This part of the story is not based on guessing. These are public claims tied to names, screenshots, and unanswered inconsistencies. All of this leads to the final chapter. The heart of this exposed, because once the pregnancy stories twist, the bump shifts, the timelines break, and the children appear in ways no one can confirm. Only one question remains. Here the story stops whispering and starts speaking clearly, because every strange detail, every contradiction, every claim from friends and witnesses leads to one unavoidable question. Who is Lilibet, really? Tom Bower's revelations did not create this mystery. They only shined light on what was already there, hidden beneath polished interviews and carefully chosen images. Think about it. A miscarriage story filled with impossible medical details. A pregnancy timeline too tight to work. Experts saying the explanations break biology. A husband who may have questioned the pregnancy himself. A folding bump. A child who allegedly had a stand-in. Royal announcements that appear and disappear without explanation. Each detail alone is curious, but together they form a shadow. The outline of a secret someone tried hard to hide. And that shadow falls directly over the name Lilibet Diana Mountbatten-Windsor. Because if the pregnancies were not what they seemed, if timelines were changed, if friends spoke truth about surgeries and limits, and if public inconsistencies point to careful control, then the question about Lilibet is not cruel. It is not unfair. It is not invented. It is necessary. Necessary for the royal line, necessary for the truth, necessary for the story Meghan and Harry told the world. And so we end not with answers, but with an open door. Because mysteries like this do not disappear. They wait quietly until someone pulls the final thread, and when that thread is pulled, the truth about Lilibet may not only change her story, it may change the entire Sussex legacy. And that is where Tom Bower's next investigation begins. That's our explosive investigation for today from Royal Daily Report. Tom Bower's revelations have opened a door that may never close again. What do you think? Does this change everything about the Sussex family story? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this report shook you, subscribe now to Royal Daily Report. Hit the bell for notifications, like this video, and share it with friends who want the real royal truth. We'll continue following every development. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay informed. Royal Daily Report signing off. See you in the next investigation.